So yes, good morning and welcome to our Meet the Lamb session on Wednesday here. We are the Royal Highland Education Trust, or RET, so for short, and we're here to deliver food, farming, countryside education across Scotland. Today you can find out more about us from our website if you go to ret.org.uk. Today we're delighted to join you from the farm to let you meet some of 2024 spring lambs. If you have any questions at all, please add them into the chat function and we will ask as many questions as we can to the farmers today. Any questions we don't get answered in the chat, we will pull them all together in a document and we'll do our best to answer all your questions as well. So I'm Sheila and I'm going to be doing asking the questions today, and we have Ali and Claire on the farm with their sheep today. Ali and Claire work for the Royal Northern Countryside Initiative, and they help deliver food, farming and education in the northeast of Scotland there. So we're just going to, I don't know if you want to do a wee chat, a wee introduction first of all, Claire or Ali, and then we'll start asking some of the questions when they come in.
Yeah, that would be great, Sheila. I'm behind the camera, so you can't see me. I'm Alison, I'll just wave. And this is Claire. I'm hoping that she's on the camera. I can't actually see what I've got the camera pointed at, so please give me a shout if I'm totally off spec. So Claire, can you tell us a little bit about Lucky and Charm and why we have them?
Yes, so these are very special sheep. This is Lucky. Charm's just over there. You'll get to meet her in a minute. And they're special because they've had a bit of a different life from usual sheep on the farm. They were both hand-reared when they were tiny little lambs because for one reason or another their mums couldn't look after them. So Lucky was one of four. She was a quad, and Charm over there was a triplet. They were both taken off their mums and hand-reared. But unlike normal orphan lambs, they then got a different job in life because they were so tame and they like being around humans. They actually got a job with us coming out on our countryside classroom in Wheels. So they got to come out to hundreds and hundreds of schools and meet lots of pupils. And because they're tame, they didn't get stressed at all, and they knew they were going to get some sweet treats. So they are 2 now, and they've just had their first crop of lambs. So we're going to meet in a minute. So up until their maternity leave, they came with us every week out to the schools. And now we've retired them out to their pasture while they rear their lambs. So on the 25th and 26th of March, they gave birth to their twins. They've both got a set each. They both have one black lamb, one coloured lamb. The father of the lambs was a Dutch spotted tup or ram male sheep. If you want to Google and have a look what they look like, they've got lots of lovely colours to them, and that's why we have the coloured lambs that you can see, one of which actually looks like a little dairy calf. So I'm going to go over and see if we can get a closer look at the little lambs.
So Ali, if you could ask Claire, we have from Inchview Primary School, they're asking why are some sheep black and why are some sheep white? Could you explain what the differences might be?
Yeah, well, first of all, it is to do with breed, and then to do with genetics and dominant colours. So these sheep are all mixes, so none of them are purebred anymore. So the dark chocolate colour comes from a breed of sheep called a Zworbel, which is a Dutch sheep that's actually a dual purpose dairy and meat kind of sheep. So you could Google that and have a look and see. So Lucky and Charm's dad was a Zworbel. And they had a Welsh Clen as a mum, which is just probably your usual white, kind of traditional looking sheep, but you can see that the white hasn't really been dominant. And then Lucky and Charm were out in the field with the Dutch spotted, so that's why we have the different colours in the lambs. It's just a bit of a coincidence that they've had one black lamb and one coloured lamb each.
That's a really great question.
And so another question we have here as well are, I think you mentioned that they were Lucky and Charm, one was a triplet, one was a quad. So the question I have here at the moment is, do the mums run out of milk if they have twins or triplets? So maybe that explains why you have them.
Generally, we would like them to be out in the field with twins. That would be optimum for feeding, because they have 2 teats. We can't raise triplets, and because of the breed of these sheep, because they have swabble through them, which can be used as a dairy sheep, they are quite milky. But Lucky's mum was definitely not going to raise 4. If I'm honest, I don't think Lucky's mum even realised she had 4. She kind of wandered off with a set of twins and just kind of abandoned the smallest of them. So that's why she was called Lucky in the first place, because it was very lucky that we found her. And she was very tiny and very weak. So we didn't even think she would survive. So to come through and now have a set of twins of her own is actually a lovely story for us.
So Ivy from Blackwood Primary School would like to know what's in the bucket that you're feeding them from at the moment.
Well, that's a good question. Let's see if there's anything left in the bucket. Just a minute, Lucky. There are a few pellets.
Can you see that?
Little ewe pellets. So
Yep.
to supplementary feeds, they're out. You can see that the grass is growing now, even though we haven't had a lot of sunshine. But every day we give them a little bit of supplementary feed just to make sure they're getting a good balanced diet. They're obviously producing a lot of milk at the moment. So there's lots of nutrients in that. There's lots of oils, some molasses, which is a byproduct from the sugar industry, and also lots of minerals, just to make sure that they've got everything that they need to raise these lambs.
So Creetown Primary School would like to know how old the sheep and lambs are.
So the ewes are 2. They were born at Easter 2 years ago, and the lambs, Lucky's lambs, were born on the 25th of March. No, sorry, Charm's lambs were born on the 25th of March. She needed a little bit of a hand with her lambing. The first lamb came and it was a little bit stuck, but it wasn't too bad. And then Lucky had hers on the 26th of March.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, Charm had hers fine out in the field, and then Lucky had hers inside.
So they're nearly a month old, and look how big they are. They're
doing a
really
fantastic job of raising them, Lucky and Charm.
Also, I've had a couple of questions here asking sort of the same thing. So somebody's asking what the things in their ears are, and also Creetown Primary School have been asking, what do they tell you? So what do they have in their ears, and what are they telling you?
Can we get closer?
I'm just trying to. So this is a little yellow tag. Where am I? Oh, here we go. Yep. That's a little yellow tag, and on one side of it is the farm number. So you see UK, and then if it starts with a 5, you know it's a Scottish farm. All farms in Scotland start with a 5. And then the individual farm number is the farm here that we're on. And then on the back is her individual number. So she's 439. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see the numbers.
And it's for traceability. It's so that James and Claire then keep records. And we've got records of where all the livestock are. We've got electronic tags as well. There's lots of fancy equipment that farmers now have that they can read the tags. But it's really to do with traceability so that we can trace all our livestock in the country.
So we've got Ella from Blackwood Primary School, from Blackwood here, would like to know what time of year are lambs usually born. So you've told us that Lucky and Charm's lambs are in March. So when would the usual time be for lambs to be born in a farm?
Well, again, it depends on the breed. So your hill sheep, so first of all, in your lowlands, they will lamb sort of February, March time, and then the lambing will carry on right up into our higher hills. So it depends on our breed and it depends on the location of the farm. So a lot of our hill breeds, like our Scottish Blackfaces and our Cheviots, are just starting to lamb just now. They'll lamb from about the 20th of April. But a lot of places in the lowlands will already have lambed and will be finished by now. So it really depends on the breed and it depends on the location of the farm.
Right. So also Daisy from Blackwood Primary School would like to know what time or how often do they get fed?
Well, they're out on the grass all the time, so they're able to graze. And then we try to stick to the same time every day. They actually very good at knowing what time it is. So we'll come out with the pellets on a morning. We'll check them all at 7 o'clock in the morning. These sheep actually have a lot of grass because we only have the two ewes here. But if there was more, we would also give them an afternoon supplementary feed. So it's quite important to keep them fed at specific times of the day.
So just when you're talking about Lucky and Charm there, so I've got a couple of questions here from different places. So one of the questions I have is that did Lucky and Charm's mums, did they have names? And I've also got a question here which then asks, do their lambs have any names as well? So did their mums have any names, and also do their lambs have any names?
Okay, so Lucky and Charm's mums didn't have names. They were just part of our commercial flock at the time. But the new lambs do have names. Can you see them on there? The lambs at the moment, the three that you've got there, we've got the one lying down is Pop with the white blaze at the back, and then the one with just the white speckles is Coco in the middle, and this one here we all thought looked like a little dairy calf, the colouring. So that's actually called Moo Moo. Don't know if that's a very inventive name, but that's its name. And we have a Eclipse over there next to Charm.
Brilliant, some unusual names there. So so Stanley Primary 1 and 2 pupils, they would like to know, are you always there to help when the lambs are being born?
Generally, yes. I think you're more attentive when it's their first crop of lambs because you don't know how they've performed in the past. There's a lot of maintenance and a lot of organisation goes into it when you're lambing a whole commercial flock. We would have had them scanned. We knew that these guys were having multiples, but we actually got them scanned quite late because there was only 2. It wasn't imperative that we had them scanned, but we did just to check. We knew they were having multiples, but generally the farmer would be very much more organised and have it all. The sheep would all be marked with colours so that they would know if they were having singles or twins or triplets, and then they're fed accordingly to help with the birth so they're not overweight. So these guys, we just kept an eye on them because they maybe were a little bit more overweight because they got a lot of biscuits when they're out at the school, but they did amazingly well. Nice strong lambs. So Charm lambed herself outside. We checked on her during the day, but she just got on with it, quite happy. And then we brought them both inside, and then Lucky had her lambs, but she did need a bit of assistance with her first one.
So Maisie from Paradise would like to know which of the lambs was born first. Can you remember?
Well, I think the first was this tup lamb, so the nice male lamb here that has markings a little bit like a dairy cow, so also known as Moo Moo. You can see that he's a lovely big strong lamb.
And Penelope from Blackberry Primary would like to know, do the lambs like to be with other animals? Have they met other animals, or do they like to be with other animals?
Well, these lambs haven't met a lot of other animals, although they were quite comfortable being around the Highland cattle, but Lucky and Charm loved being around other animals. So we did say they had a very unusual life, unlike normal sheep, and they like to be around. We have a couple of pigs here, and then the Highland cattle are out all year round, and they were very sociable and like to be around them, but they also like to be around people, which is unusual for sheep, so they are rather special.
So just when you were stroking them there, there's a lot of questions about wool here, lots and lots of questions about wool here. So some of them, I've got one here. I'll just maybe read a few out. Maybe you could sort of cover them all. So we've got, when will the lambs get their full woolly coats? Also, how long will it take for them to grow into a fully woolly coat as well? How long will their wool take to grow? And also, what does it feel like? Do they feel fluffy is one of the questions as well we've got in there.
So Lucky and Charm were sheared last June, and you can see how much their wool has grown. So it grows, so you get a whole, basically all of my fingers in a year, okay? So it takes a year for it to grow. So the little lammies that have just been born, by winter time, they will have a woolly coat on them, and they will then be sheared next June as well. We would call that, they'll be hogs then, and they'll get their hog clip, and that's usually a wee bit earlier than the ewe clip. But then they'll probably, because there's so little here on Claire's farm, they'll probably just all be clipped together. But every year they're clipped. And we obviously have to clip and shear our sheep to keep them nice and healthy. Their wool keeps them nice and warm. It's also waterproof, so it means they can be outside all the time. But to keep our sheep nice and healthy, we have to clip them, because they don't have, it's not like a jacket that they can take on and off, is it? And when you talk about how it feels, each breed, the wool feels slightly different. So this wool is quite nice. It's got quite a nice, what we call a crimp, which is the wavy bit there. I don't know if you can see that. But each breed, the wool will be used for a different job. So the likes of our Cheviots and our Scottish Blackface sheep that are on the hills, their wool is nice and tough, and it goes into things like carpets. But the wool in breeds like the Blueface Leicester would maybe go into more upholstery, where you can have a finer wool and a much softer wool. So each breed, their wool feels a bit different. And Lucky is just sitting here, and she's loving being scratched, isn't she? She's sitting there chewing her cud.
So you have, yeah, I've actually answered. Also, one of the questions was when they get wet, will the wool dry? So how does their wool dry when they get wet? But you were sort of explaining
well, wool is so amazing. It's got an oil in it called lanolin, and my hands with playing around with Lucky's wool just now are really nice and soft, because there's an oil in that called lanolin, and that is what keeps them dry when they're outside. So they might feel wet on the outside because it's rained or it's snowed, but when you put your fingers, like I was doing, right down into Lucky, to her skin, she's actually really nice and warm, and she would be dry in there. And the lanolin is waterproof, basically. It's like the waterproof coating. And we wash that out of the wool before we use the wool, and it goes into things like lipsticks and lip balms. It's amazing.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of sort of wool related questions, and we've got one here that says, were the lambs born the same colour as their mums? That's from Kenmay Primary School. And I've also got one that's asked, will the black sheep just have black faces when they grow up, or will they still have black fleeces? So will they change colour, and why do some sheep change colour?
Oh, that's a really good question. The lambs here won't change colour. But you can see Lucky on the outside is kind of a browny colour. So they will always have those black and white speckles on them, and the wool will just grow that colour. So the black lambs, you don't get as much for your black fleece as you'll get for your white fleece, because it's really hard to dye black wool. So they will stay this colour. So the black lamb will always be black, but this little white lamb with the white face and the white speckles, Moo, will always be, it'll always have the white bits on it.
And you also mentioned a hog. So Kenway Primary 2 would like to know, what is a hog?
So that is when they get to a year old.
Between 1 and 2 years old. And then the female would be a gimmer from 2 onwards.
So these are just sort of names that we have for different stages of sheep. So it's like babies and toddlers and teenagers and things like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Do they wear a coat when it's wet outside? Maisie from Paradise is asking.
Well, some folk that have that are lambing outside, yeah, absolutely. They'll put little waterproof jackets on them just when it's really awful. But sometimes you might see that the farmer will put straw bales out into the field as well to give them a lot of shelter. And our stone walls are really good to shelter behind, and also that they might have some trees or some hedges that they'll shelter. And when you're standing up and it's windy, but if you lie down on the ground, it's not as windy close to the ground. But like we're hiding on the sheltering ground. On the ground.
So yeah, and we've now some people are being very observant here. So we're asking, why are the lambs not tagged yet? So you've just explained about the mummies tags, and so do the lambs get tagged, or when do they get tagged?
So they don't have to be tagged until they move off the farm. So this is where they've been born, and they don't need to be tagged until they're about 9 months old, or when they move off the farm. So if they were to move off the farm tomorrow, Claire would have to tag them before they go, and she would have to write that in her records so that we've got traceability of where those lambs that were born and where they've gone to, but they don't need to be tagged until they move off the farm.
Yeah. So we've got quite a few, there's loads and loads of questions here. I'm zooming up and down them. So Ella from Paradise would like to know as well, do sheep ever get sick?
Oh, they can do, yes. And if the farmer, when he's looking at them every day, he'll be looking for signs of a sheep maybe not being well. She might be away in the corner, her ears might be flopping down, and if he can't make her better, he would phone the vet and get the vet to come in and have a look at her and see what's wrong with her. So they do, just like we get sick, we get coughs and colds, and we might get flu, or we might have had COVID. And we would go to the doctor, we can get the vet to come and look at our sheep. It's a really good question.
So somebody here again has been very observant, and they're asking, what's the blue thing that's just behind you there? There's a blue on the ground there. What's the blue things behind you there?
So I don't know. See if I can get a bit closer. So they actually hold molasses. And they have little floating balls. We fill them with molasses. So when ewes are heavily pregnant, they still need a lot of energy, but they might not have enough space in the rumen for all the forage. So to try and give them a boost, we feed them high energy licks. You can see a bucket over there. Other licks are available. I'm not trying to promote that. So yeah, we fill this with molasses, which is a lovely sticky, sugary substance, which is a byproduct from the sugar industry, and they come up. And I don't know if you can see. Can you see the ball inside? It floats, and then they just lick it. So they just lick the molasses out of there, and it gives them a lovely energy boost. Oh, this one, if you can see, has got the balls. Oh, 1 second. It's just because it's quite interesting to see. Here we go. So it's just got water in at the moment, but they lick it and it turns, so they can just take off the sugary substance.
So they can just go and do that when they feel that they might need a wee boost. They can go and lick that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. So Creetown Primary School are also asking, why do ewes reject their babies? And they've got quite a number of questions here. And another wee question they have too are about other animals that you have on the farm. So do you have other animals on the farm? And if you do, how many?
What was the first part of the question? So
that was, do ewes reject their lambs? They can, yeah, they absolutely can. Sometimes I've seen ewes where they've had one black lamb and one white lamb, and they will not take the black lamb. And it doesn't matter what you do to the ewe, you'll try and milk her and put milk through the lamb so that the lamb smells of her. You'll try spraying Lynx Africa all over the lamb so that she might take it. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter how you try.
Awkward.
They can be a bit awkward, but a lot of it, some breeds are more maternal than other breeds. I would have said our hill breeds are maybe more maternal, but the milky ewes that Claire has here, if they've got milk, so if you've looked after them and you've fed them and they've got milk, I think there's always a lesser chance of a ewe rejecting a lamb, because she's really heavy with milk, so, but when it comes to sheep, there's no real rule book, because they're really good at finding ways of
there is also sometimes the ewes can reject them because they know that there is something wrong with that particular lamb, and it's not worth her putting her time and energy into rearing it. So even though it might look perfectly well to us, she knows that there's something an underlying problem there. So that is a very clever side of nature, although we might see it as being quite cruel. In the natural environment, I guess it would take a lot out of the ewe to raise that lamb if she knows it wouldn't survive anyway. The second part was about other animals on the farm, is that
yes,
right?
That's right, Claire, yes.
Yes, we do have a few Highland cows, but unfortunately they've just been moved, so we can't see them from here. And then we have 200 store cattle in the sheds. I don't think you can... They're in the shed over there. I don't know if you can see them inside. I don't think we've got time to walk down,
No.
unfortunately.
We can see the shed, but we can't see anything in it.
So there's lots inside, and they are waiting for the lovely warm spring weather and the grass to grow so we can get them out and we don't have to feed them and bed them every day.
So we also have
Claire's Talk to a Farmer film. There's a bit about the cattle in the sheds on Claire's farm.
Yes, you will see them if you go to the Talk to the Farmer. You'll watch James feeding them and bedding them.
Also, one of the questions we have here are, when do the lambs stop needing the milk from their mum?
Well, they would always say wean them at about 16 weeks. So by about 16 weeks, they're not needing the milk the same. And it means if you take them away from the mother, she then can recover in time to go back to the tub to have her next lot of lambs. So, but if you left them on, they would probably still take the milk, but you can wean them at about 16 weeks.
Right. So then Molly would like to know what else do the lambs eat? So is it just milk just now that they're eating, or?
If you want to talk about it, I've got some creep feed here and we'll show you what's in it.
So we can feed them a little bit of creep feed. Claire's just running down the hill to get that, and the lambs are all following her because they think, oh, she's going to get a blue bucket. So there's just a mixture of things in it. There'll be a little bit of cereal, so maybe some barley, some feed barley. Like we feed the ewes, there'll be a little bit of vitamins and minerals, and it just...
Yes, this is expensive stuff. It's like sticky muesli.
Hold on a minute till I turn that round.
So this would be what we would give them first. We don't want them to be on this too long because it is expensive, but it's like a lovely sticky sugary muesli.
This actually looks like a breakfast cereal. It looks like Frosties or cornflakes, and it actually is. It's maize, it's sweet corn, and it's called maize, and we feed that to them. So can you see that?
And peas?
Yeah, peas. So there's all sorts of really yummy things in here. There'll be a little bit of molasses as well to make it nice and sticky.
Yep.
So there's quite a lot of questions about the feeding. So what some people are asking, what's the sheep's favourite thing to eat? And why do they like molasses so much?
It's Lucky and Charm. It's chocolate hobnob.
So the favourite thing they like to eat is grass. And in Scotland, we are so good at growing grass, but we have to give them a little bit of a supplement. So that's why we give them some concentrate feed as well at different times of the year. But they mainly eat grass. Thank goodness we can grow it here because it never stops raining. So there they are.
I've also got quite a number of people are asking. Sorry, I've got so many people asking these questions. I can't name all the schools, but how old can sheep live to as well? So there's quite a lot of people would like to know how old the sheep can live to.
Well, they can live to sort of anywhere between 10 and 14, but what happens is they start to lose their teeth as they get older. So it makes it harder for them to eat, so you can feed them a bit more concentrate, but it would be really unusual for them still to have lambs at that age. But I mean, they can live a really good age. But for commercial flocks, probably you'll have them for about 7 years. Hill flocks will be slightly less because they're eating the heather. It affects their teeth more. So they might stay on the hill for 5 years and then come down to the nice lowland grass fields and maybe have another couple of years worth of lambs down here.
So yeah, we are starting to run out a bit of time now. But if your question hasn't been answered, they will go on to the link later on, and we'll get Claire and Ali to answer any questions I've not managed to ask yet.